Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. So I am here today with Chiron in the 11th house. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the wound associated with having Chiron within the 11th house, but then following through with some practical tips and advice on how to heal. However, before we do get started, if you would like to know more information all about your Chiron sign along with your Chiron house, as well as your Virgo house within your birth chart and your 6th house respectively, then I have created a Virgo season / archetype ebook. So what I am going to do is I'm going to provide a link to that ebook in the description box below so that you can pick up your copy today. Okay then, so with all those introductions out of the way, Chiron in the 11th house. Let's do this. Okay, so what I am coming to notice here is that if you have Chiron in the 11th house, there is some sort of wound associated with group involvement. So to put this into perspective, let's put out some examples here. There could have been a situation with your upbringing where you experienced rejection involving groups of people. So if we were to look at this in terms of school, right? Of course, within school, there's cliques. There's different cliques of people, and especially I notice this within American culture. You know, you have the jocks, you got the cheerleaders, you got the nerds, you've got the goths, all that good stuff going on. So, you might have dabbled in a little bit in and out of these different groups and cliques. Of course, it doesn't necessarily have to have aligned with exactly what I just said, because of course you may not be from America or the United States. You may be from a completely different country within the UK or within Europe, and how all this plays out is going to be quite different, but also noticing similar themes and patterns as well at the same time, because hey, cliques still exist within schooling systems all over the world. It's just that they might be labeled in different ways, you know. So with that being said, wherever you're from, whatever schooling system you were brought up in, you might have looked at these different groups and clubs and went into them and had tried them out a little bit, or wanted to see how they fitted your personality and your own perception, and you know, you really wanted to see like how well you could vibe with these people. But then maybe you were made to feel like you just weren't welcome, or you just didn't feel a connection really with those people. You may struggle to properly connect with people in that regard and really relate with other people, especially if, for example, you went into a certain group scenario and there was a common theme, or they all had like minds towards a certain ideology. You, if you have Chiron in the 11th house, might have entered into that situation, and you might have had your own sort of ideology, or you might have questioned their minds or what they were thinking and not really resonated with it so much, you know. Maybe you would disagree, or maybe you would challenge what they were saying, or maybe it just didn't sit well with you and was quite uncomfortable. Could have even been a situation where these people were quite mean, you know. You know, it could be a situation where you entered into a certain group and you thought like, yeah, I really want to be friends with these people. I want to make friends with these people. But then next thing you know, they're being complete bitches, or they're just being complete a-holes. Part of my French here. But really, you could have just thought, yes, this is the group that I'm going to vibe with so much. And then, lo and behold, you're completely mistaken, and you're just like, no, I really do not want to associate myself with these people. This could have even been a situation where you were completely rejected or betrayed or just stabbed in the back by certain people that you tried to connect with, you know. So we're seeing here some rejection around the people that you wanted to enter into a group with and form a friendship with. But we're also noticing here when it comes to friendship, right? We're noticing just a difficulty in even making friends and just trying to relate with friends. Perhaps if you have Chiron in the 11th house, you've had friendships that just come to a really sad, disheartening end, or maybe you've experienced quite critical friends, or maybe you've criticized your friends quite a bit. So friendship and connecting and finding your place within group scenarios is just really, really difficult with this placement. Though furthering on from this point, if we were to take this away from the schooling system and place it into, let's say for example, the religious side of things, so looking at you maybe going to Sunday school on a Sunday, and Sunday school is, I suppose you could say, seen as a certain club or a group, right? Maybe there was a situation where you were in this union of people and you really felt like you could form a connection with these people, but yet after discovering lies and deceit and rejection and neglect from these people, it could have just completely morphed and shifted your own perspective and made you feel really hurt. It's almost as if you put so much faith or so much focus on that group situation or that group of people that when something came along to distort that or to cause you suffering through that, then it was just this really disheartening feeling, you know. It was just this sheer letdown, you know, and it's maybe made you just quite distant and just wanting to keep to yourself, if anything, you know. You may be this type of person who has this loner mentality, this very individual mentality, but it's done so perhaps because of a result of you not finding your tribe, not finding a community that really cares, that is honest and open and real, you know. You just may see certain groups of people and just see through the falseness. And yeah, you just might have grown up with this outlook of being the person who was always on the outside looking in. But you know, I would like to sort of talk about my own personal experience with this placement, you know, going on from this point. I actually have Chiron in the 11th house, and what's interesting, I think, from what I just said of the outside looking in, I always remember listening to this song. I cannot remember the name of the artist, unfortunately, but it was by this Disney artist. So I used to watch a lot of Disney movies whenever I was growing up, and it was called The Outside Looking In, and I used to be obsessed with this song. It used to really, really move me. But for me, I can see how this placement does connect really well with me. It resonates with me because I was that person who really found it hard to find people, groups of people that I could properly engage with and relate with and connect to. I found myself constantly just jumping from friendship to friendship, from circle to circle, from group to group. But it's weird because as I did jump from group to group, after reflecting on the events or what that group did together, I think to myself, you know, I'm really glad that I didn't stay with those groups of people because of the actions that they did as a group. And I think to myself, you know, I'm kind of glad that I didn't get involved with certain groups of people, because where would I be if I did? What would my life be if I stayed with these groups that ended up, you know, getting into trouble and being really reckless and just doing all sorts of things. And I think, you know, I'm glad that I didn't. I'm glad that I was able to take myself away from groups of people who I thought were quite toxic or just weren't really right for me. But at the same time, it can still suck a little bit, because then it can put you into this mindset where you think, I'm just never gonna be able to find my tribe. I'm never gonna be able to find a community that really gets me, or where I can make really solid friendships, that it's, you know, more based upon the actual value of a friend rather than this collective ideal that all the group want to do and everyone's pushing towards that, and it's all awkward. And you know, I find with group scenarios, they're really interesting because you always have, or at least I noticed anyway, you always have like that leader, you know, you always have like the alpha female or the alpha male. And I just hated that, you know, I hated that whole like hierarchy that came with groups. And I guess it's just within our nature to do that. But yeah, that was my sort of experience. I tended to remove myself away from people who I got that kind of energy from. So with that being said, if you have Chiron in the 11th house, maybe you can relate to some of what I'm saying. But still, even if we're to look at community, so looking at the types of communities that exist within social media, within YouTube, if you have Chiron in the 11th house, maybe you've also experienced rejection there. You know, maybe you've tried to get in with certain communities on the web, and when you bring certain ideas that do not line up with the group's ideas, maybe they just shun you, or maybe they're like, hey, so you're not welcome here anymore, bye. So there might even be rejection that you face there within social media, with the online world. But if anything, if we were to look at this as a whole, you bringing forward your own unique perspective about the way you view things just might have been shut down, and that could have just caused rejection and hurt within you. However, whenever it comes to the actual types of friendships that you form with others, perhaps you have friends in your life right now or from the past who were or are quite insecure friends, or maybe they've experienced a lot of trauma throughout their lives, or maybe they themselves have felt rejected or wounded in some way. So you might connect perhaps a little bit better with these people, but at the same time, it's also good to be aware of how those insecure friends may also have the tendency of pulling you down, because you can both sort of feed off that energy together, right? Because if you're also feeling a bit rejected or insecure, and so are they, and you come together into a union or a clique or a friendship together, the insecurities could result in so many different implications between you all. And I think that those implications could even result in further breakups and confusion and more rejection and hurt and pain. So, you know, this could even be a situation where you've just been in like this triangle sort of situation where it's been you and a friend and then another friend, and then this friend and the other friend are more closer, and then they go and then you go, and you know, it's like that whole saying of two's company, three's a crowd kind of thing. Or it could be a situation where you've introduced friends, your current friends, to other friends, and you'd be like, hey, you know, this is such and such, and this is such and such, and then all of a sudden these two get together, and then it's like you're just shut out, you know? Or it could be a situation where you have your group of friends, then there's also other friends, and you introduce them, but it doesn't sit well with either party, or maybe they clash, and they start arguing or fighting, or all sorts of chaos could just happen, and then you're in the middle, or you think that you're responsible, you take a lot of shame and guilt for what happened. Or this could even be a situation where the more people just enter into a scenario or a group, the more you just become overwhelmed. Because you may have this outlook where you feel that you need to attend to everybody in that group. You need to be like attentive to everyone and make them seen. You know, you don't want them to feel rejected in any way. But by doing that, being so worried and frantic about all that, you yourself end up being rejected, because the more people come in and in and in, the more pressure is built on you, and then the more frantic you get, and then you just distance yourself even further and further, because then you get all up in your head and then you don't know what to do, and it can just become this complete mess, I think, with this placement, where you don't really know how to interact properly with people, or they don't know how to interact with you, and you feel like maybe you have to give more of yourself, but you're overcompensating because of your need to be accepted by these people that you probably don't even know, or you might not even freaking see them again. And if we were to also look at this house in association with society as a whole, so moving it away from necessarily the friendship circles and groups and clubs, but more towards your city, the society that exists within your city or your country, well, there may be some sort of wound that you hold towards your society, or you may reject your society and not really want to interact with it. Maybe there's certain things within it that you're quite ashamed about. Maybe there's been events throughout history that has happened within your society that has wounded everybody there, and that just makes you quite angry or annoyed. Or maybe there's certain things that have happened that have made you feel quite embarrassed or just ashamed towards them. So there's some sort of, you know, it could even be that your society has been wounded as a collective overall. You know, maybe there was a war, maybe there was fighting, maybe there were bombs. You know, even if I was to reflect on this in terms of Chiron in the 11th house for myself, like, I have grown up in Northern Ireland, and we experienced what was called the Troubles. So there were bombs, and there was just a lot of chaos not even that long ago, to be honest. Like, my parents, you know, they grew up in this, but there's also fighting over Catholics and Protestants that still exists today, and there's just a lot of arguments and hurt and wounds associated with just that whole group dynamic going on here. So yeah, you know, if you have Chiron in the 11th house, maybe you come from a certain society or group or collective where there's been a lot of hurt, and maybe you just feel a lot of shame from that, or you just feel like you don't want to be a part of that, or being a part of that makes you feel really hurt in some way. Okay, so now we have discussed the wound, let's look at some practical tips and advice on how to heal. So kind of going off the last example that I used when it comes to a wounded society and looking out into your society and maybe feeling a bit ashamed by it or disagreeing with the different ideas or rules and regulations that are in place. Well, if you have this placement, maybe you can do something about that in your own way. Maybe you can learn how to really express your own collective ideas, or express the ideas that you have that you think would be better for everybody else. Of course, that doesn't mean that your ideas are the correct way, but I just mean doing something that can get those ideas out of you, or maybe trying to get a group of people together to get into those ideas together and really discuss that. This could even be where you join a certain activist group. Now, I'm just going to say that I personally am not part of any activism group. And that's just because I've really learned that even activist groups have their own agenda. But of course, everyone's different, and if you want to join a certain activist group because you think that that can really help society or help other people, then of course you can do that with this placement, and it can be a good way for you to really learn new things and meet new people and just see what changes you can make for your society or for the collective. And this doesn't necessarily have to be even you bringing forward your collective ideas for literally the whole, like everybody, you know, but even just a little group that you're a part of, you know. So if it is that you find yourself in a certain club and you don't really agree with how that club is being ran, maybe it's kind of shady, maybe people are dishonest, maybe there's a lot of lies, if you have Chiron in the 11th house, you can learn with this placement how to speak up, how to stand up and say, I don't agree with that. It's not healthy for everybody else here. I don't think it's fair. So maybe just learning how to use your voice, how to create change in the way that you can. You could even join a certain cause that you think is really a good, genuine cause, you know, or you could be a part of a certain charity that really helps other people. But with that in mind, just be cautious. Be cautious of really how that charity functions. Be cautious of the causes, ideologies, and how that all comes together, because the thing about the 11th house, guys, I just want to express this, there can be a fine line between a cause and a community and whatnot and a cult where it's a cult mentality. So that is the thing with this house. And you know what, even following on from that point, if you have Chiron in the 11th house, maybe you've been a part of a cult before, or maybe you find yourself in a group situation that you then realized, oh my goodness, this is so wrong, this is so wrong, I've been lied to, I've been completely deceived, everybody here is just, oh, they're so deluded, oh my gosh, what did I do, what did I get myself in for? So really, just try to keep yourself aware with this, and keep a strong mind. Do your own research when it comes to causes and different communities that you join, because really it can be a slippery slope, let's just say. So following on from that point, even, right, I think a good way to actually help with the healing process is for you to just be open-minded, you know, so really taking the time to listen to different groups of people's opinions and what they really think, not necessarily being that you have to identify with those opinions and ideas, but just keep yourself open and be more objective about it, and keep yourself at a nice distance and listen to people, hear out what they have to say, their different thoughts and opinions, and see how it resonates with you. Though still, I do think it can be quite healing for you to surround yourself with like-minded people at the same time if you feel like those people are genuine people and they're the people that you really resonate with. So for example, for me, like, I have this placement, like I said, and I feel that within the astrological community, I'm finding people within this community that I feel are really genuine and I can connect with and relate with, and that makes me feel really, really good. Yes, I'm also aware that each individual person is different, and it's still important for me to be discerning when it comes to people within the community. But as a whole, I have been really enjoying the experience, and I feel that I've gained a lot of confidence from this community. And even on that, of course, from doing YouTube videos and the community that's formed through my channel on Hannah's Elsewhere, hello, that has really helped me a lot as well. Just feeling like I'm really a part of something, you know, and it's something that brings me a lot of enjoyment, and I feel like I can relate with other people, and that's very healing for me. So therefore, if you have Chiron in the 11th house, maybe you can do this yourself. You can find a certain community or group of people where you can really relate and connect. But just looking at still remembering to use your discernment, and if things make you feel uncomfortable, or if there's things that you don't agree with, then still being okay with distancing yourself or removing certain people from your social media. And when it comes to the friendship side of things, I think a good way to help with the healing process is, I know this sounds so cliche, it's gonna sound really corny and really cliche, but to become your own best friend, or just friend, just to grow to accept yourself, grow to accept your own mind and your own ideas, especially if they're original ideas that go against the status quo, against what's normal, and just coming to terms with those things, accepting those things about yourself, rather than criticizing yourself for having all of these ideas that, yeah, maybe they do go against what everybody else is saying, but that's okay, you know? It doesn't mean your ideas, of course, are true or correct, but they're your ideas, and it's good to value those ideas. And, you know, also trusting that, who knows, you may find people on your journey who have and share similar ideas to you. And I also understand that it can really suck, because I know for myself that it has sucked so much in the past where I vibed with somebody because of an idea that I have, because of how like-minded we were together, but then just because my idea or my mind was to change, just to change my mind, to change my ideology, because it didn't line up with their ideology anymore, there was this disconnect then with that person. So it can suck whenever you realize, oh my gosh, we were only friends because we had this ideology in common. It wasn't because of all the time we spent together. It wasn't because of all the deep philosophical conversations we had together about other things besides, you know, just this one idea. And yeah, it can suck. And I think that's why it's good for you to learn how to really just appreciate your own mindset, and trusting that you will meet people who will vibe with that, who will relate with that mindset as well. But also just keeping in mind that a friendship is more than that. You know, a friendship goes so much more deeper than just the same minds that you have. Of course it plays a part, and it really does help to form a good relationship with someone. But if you are rejected, if you're shunned by someone else just because you don't believe in the same thing they believe in, or just because you changed your mind and you didn't want to do that thing anymore, then maybe that puts things into perspective for you, and you have to come to terms with what you really think at the end of the day, and what you really want, and what you really value in your friendships and in others overall. I just think that if you have this placement, it's really important for you to come to terms with what friendship means to you. What does it mean to form a valuable friendship with somebody else? What does that look like? And how much of a friend can you be to yourself in your head? Do you criticize yourself? Do you criticize your friends? You know, that's even a possibility here. Maybe you've been a crappy friend yourself in the past. I know myself that, yeah, I've done things in my friendships that were pretty crappy. I've let my friends down before. I've had disagreements with friends. My friends have also rejected me. And, you know, there is this, of course, two-way street when it comes to us and others. And so it's good to strip this back and really come to terms with who you are as a friend, the types of qualities you like about yourself in association with being a friend, and being that, you know, thinking about the type of friend you want to be and the type of friendship that you want to form with others. And the last way that I am going to suggest for healing Chiron in the 11th house is Well, if you find yourself in a group scenario or situation and maybe you see somebody else being left out, or maybe a bit shyer, or maybe feeling rejected, or maybe feeling awkward or uncomfortable, whatever, you can be that person to go over to them, introduce yourself, bring them in, get them involved, ask them questions, be inquisitive, just really make them seen. Because especially you may know how that feels, Chiron in the 11th house. You may know how that feels to be that person. So by you bringing them in into your world and integrating them into the situation, then yeah, you just might also feel pretty damn good about yourself by doing it. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video on Chiron in the 11th house. So what we did is we addressed the wound itself, followed by some practical tips and advice on how to heal. Thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then go right ahead and click that subscribe button. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!